Ma Jishiang, born on April 2, 1957, experienced a significant setback in his early 20s when he fell ill, resulting in a lifelong intellectual disability and persistent fever. Residing in Tanjialong village within China's Hunan province, he often ventured out independently to purchase cigarettes, a routine he regularly followed. On December 27, 2009, Ma embarked on one of these walks, causing little to no immediate surprise among his family when he did not promptly return. When Ma didn't return by nightfall, concern gripped his family. Given Ma's familiarity with the area, they found it implausible that he could have lost his way. Upon reaching Ma's home, they discovered everything in order, including the neatly arranged kitchen with cleaned cooking pots. Subsequently, they visited the store where Ma typically bought cigarettes and inquired with the attendant. The response was disheartening. The person working there stated he never came in that day. Despite trying to remain hopeful by considering the possibility that Ma might be with another villager 3 days later on December 30th, with still no sign of him, they reluctantly accepted that something was amiss. It was at this point that they notified the police and the rest of the villagers. The entire village united to participate in the search efforts, while the police, though initially thinking Ma would return on his own, agreed to organize a search party as a precaution. Some villagers mentioned seeing Ma leave the village on the morning of December 27th, but didn't witness his return, considering it normal due to Ma's numerous friends. The search party meticulously combed through every corner of Tanjialong village, explored his frequented spots, and extended their efforts to neighboring villages in hopes of finding Ma. Despite their thorough search yielding no results, the police, faced with no leads, decided to put the case on hold. Fast forward a few years to February 7th, 2012 at 10:40 p.m. in the darkness of Taiping village. A driver named Yang Jiguang found himself on a dimly lit road, proceeding at a faster pace than usual since he was the only car on the road that night. However, this decision proved costly. As he approached an intersection to make a turn, a figure suddenly emerged in the middle of the road. Despite Yang's quick attempt to brake, it was too late, resulting in a collision with the person. Overwhelmed with fear, Yang promptly contacted the police. Regrettably, upon their arrival, there was nothing they could do, and the individual had succumbed to the impact instantly. The man lay lifeless in the middle of the road, having been forcefully struck by the vehicle. The police examined Yang's dash cam, which validated his account, leading to the conclusion that the death was an unfortunate accident. Despite this clarity, the police faced a challenge in identifying the deceased. His face had been disfigured and was unrecognizable, and he carried no form of identification, only a seemingly empty woven bag. The man appeared to be in his late 50s to early 60s, and the only lead available was the limited view of his face from Yang's dash cam, as there were no CCTV cameras in the vicinity. Considering his attire, the police speculated he might have been homeless. To explore this possibility, they surveyed the homeless population in the area, but none of them had been reported missing. The police issued notices in local newspapers seeking assistance in identifying the deceased, and Ma's family learned of the incident through these notices, prompting them to come forward. DNA samples were obtained from Ma's brother, Ma Jianjun, and the results revealed a significant similarity, strongly suggesting they were brothers. Since Ma Jishiang was the only unaccounted-for brother, the police and the family concluded that the deceased could only be Ma Jishiang. The official identification was confirmed on the 25th of February the same year. No legal action was pursued against Yang, as his family agreed to accept a compensation of 150,000 yuan on February 28th. After Ma's cremation on March 1st, the family used the compensation money to organize a funeral for their departed relative. Every resident of Tanjialong village contributed and attended the funeral, making it a communal effort to honor Ma Jishiang's memory. More than 3 years after the body was buried on December 20th, 2015, a disheveled elderly man with a forlorn demeanor appeared in Hongyang. Bystanders actively avoided him due to his ragged appearance and somber mood. Approaching a compassionate police officer on duty, the man uttered, "I'm hungry. I want to eat." Touched by his plight, the officer decided to take him to a restaurant for a meal. During the repast, the man expressed a desire to return home. Perplexed, the officer mentioned the man's apparent homelessness in the city, to which he responded, "I'm from Tanjalong village, Baishi town, Xiangtan city. My name is Ma Jishiang." A sentence he repeated persistently. Believing the man's sincerity, he was escorted to a local police station where authorities checked their records for any mention of a Ma Jishiang. It was then revealed that he had died in a traffic accident 3 years earlier. Ma's identification raised doubts, leading the police to bring him back to the village. Every resident unequivocally confirmed his identity as Ma. To solidify this confirmation, DNA samples were collected from him and compared to his family's, confirming a match. This affirmed that the man was indeed Ma Jishiang. Shockingly, Ma shared that he had been kidnapped and coerced into manual labor in the city, revealing himself as a victim of human trafficking. Naturally, this was one of the last things anyone was expecting. A man who has been dead for 3 years just rocking up on your doorstep doesn't happen every day. This revelation indicated that the body Ma's family had cremated, believing it to be their relative, was, in fact, an entirely different person. Despite placing the DNA in China's missing persons database, no matches were found. The DNA results for the deceased remained only identifying the person as a brother or relative without specifying Ma. By sheer coincidence, the unknown deceased turned out to be a distant relative of the family. Given this unexpected connection, the tomb remained undisturbed, and Ma continues to visit it regularly, mourning the brother he never had the chance to meet. Presently, Ma resides in a nursing home. Identifying the deceased seems improbable as his body has been cremated. The only available information aside from his relatives suggests that he was potentially homeless and in his 60s. Although through death this man has found his family, it is sad that they never got to know each other. I can't imagine how shocking it would feel to see someone you believe is dead appear again. I can only assume it would feel like a dream. On April 27, 2010, a group of construction workers in Xinhua village situated in China's Heilongjiang province took a break for lunch at the canteen. Frustration grew among the workers as they waited a long time for their food. And when they sought out the cook to address the issue, 65-year-old Liu Shuyun, known as Liu Boss, due to being the eldest in his family, was nowhere to be found. A concerned worker went to Liu Boss's home. Finding the front door slightly open, he called out but received no response. Upon entering the home, he discovered that although the lights were still on, Liu Boss was not there. Despite the absence of the cook, many workers were not overly worried about his safety. Instead, they were frustrated about going hungry. Concerns about Liu Boss's whereabouts grew, and inquiries were made with his family. His younger brother, 46-year-old Liu Laoliu, took the initiative to search for his brother in places he frequented. After an unsuccessful search, Laoliu turned to the police and filed a report. However, the police showed limited interest and made minimal efforts to locate the missing brother. Laoliu returned home, eagerly awaiting any updates. 2 days later, villagers needed to meet with Laoliu. When they arrived at his home, they discovered an open door and lights on, but Laoliu was not there. The villagers briefly searched for him and called his cell phone only to find it turned off, an unusual and out-of-character occurrence. Unable to locate Laoliu, his family reported him missing to the police. Initially, Liu Boss's Vanishing act was attributed to a quest for better employment beyond his rural village. However, when younger brother Lao Liu went missing just 2 days later, suspicions heightened, prompting the police to launch a thorough investigation into both cases. Seeking additional support, the local police enlisted officers from neighboring villages and formed a dedicated task force. The oldest brother who went missing first had been living in solitude for 2 decades and had minimal interactions outside his family. On the other hand, the younger brother, deeply connected to the community as a farmer involved in various jobs and side businesses, had a more vibrant social life and owned a cell phone that never left his sight. The focus shifted more towards tracking down Lao Liu, with the belief that the 2 disappearances were most likely linked. Examining Lao Liu's cell phone records revealed a pattern of frequent calls until the day he vanished, abruptly ceasing thereafter. This led the police to infer that Lao Liu hadn't planned an extended absence, and whatever transpired occurred suddenly. Of particular interest in his phone records was a specific number he had dialed twice on April 29th, the day he went missing. This number belonged to Su Hong, a local doctor who owned and operated the village's medical clinic. 9 years earlier, Su Hong had relocated to her now-deceased parents' home in the local area, living alone with her 4 children, 3 of whom were adopted. When the police questioned her at her residence, Hong disclosed that she had borrowed 5,000 yuan from Liu Boss in 2009 and an additional 10,000 yuan from Lao Liu to fund her children's medical treatment. Adjusting for inflation, this would be just shy of 3,000 USD today. According to Hong, she had already repaid both brothers. Village residents confirmed the loans and unanimously vouched for Hong's good character. Regarding the phone calls, Hong claimed she contacted Lao Liu to arrange a meeting to return the money, and after he left, she never saw him again. The police initiated a search looking for bodies or any unusual elements in the small village, such as strangers or unfamiliar vehicles. Efforts yielded no results. The following 3 days of investigation proved unproductive until a breakthrough on May 10th. Lao Liu's sister received a text message from her brother, confessing to a tragic incident. The message stated, "Let me be honest with you. I accidentally killed Big Brother. I said I was going to Shandong to find his son, and he got anxious, not letting us approach his son. Why is he like this? At that time, I had been drinking and got into it with him. He got up, so I pushed him probably too hard. He didn't stand steady, and his head hit the door frame. When I checked, he had no pulse. I was scared, so I took care of Big Brother by moving the motorcycle. I was afraid of getting caught, so I left." The police conducted a thorough search of both brothers' homes with a particular focus on Lao Liu's residence. Given the text message indicating that Lao Liu had pushed his older brother, causing him to hit his head on the doorframe, forensics concentrated their efforts in that area. There were no signs of a struggle evident, and Liu Boss's fingerprints were not discovered. Luminol tests failed to reveal any blood on the doorframe. Inside the house, an inexplicable discovery further puzzled the investigators. They found 3,000 yuan casually scattered around, a detail inconsistent with the notion of Lao Liu hastily fleeing and going on the run. It appeared highly unlikely that Lao Liu sent the text message, especially upon closer examination. Lao Liu, known for his limited education, numerous typos, and unfamiliarity with punctuation marks, presented a stark contrast to the well-composed text with proper punctuation. Both the police and his family recognized this inconsistency and attempted to call his number, only to receive no answer as the phone was again turned off. Upon further scrutiny, the police discovered that the phone had never been used apart from the transmission of that single text message. Over the week, the phone sporadically powered on, repeatedly sending the same text message to various individuals, predominantly Lao Liu's family members. The message provided no new insights, merely stating, "I killed Big Brother. I feel awful. I can never come back again. I did it myself. It's unrelated to anyone else. I'm leaving. Take care of yourselves." Despite the release of the texts that seemed to exonerate Dr. Hong, suspicions surrounding her intensified, prompting a reinvestigation by the police. Concerns deepened when another of Lao Liu's brothers revealed that Lao Liu had previously mentioned while intoxicated that, "If I die, it will be Su Hong who kills me." On May 19th, the police revisited Hong's residence for further questioning. Hong remained calm and matter-of-fact during the initial queries, however. When asked about owning a cellar, she appeared to panic and denied having one. This raised skepticism among the police, given that in Heilongjiang province, nearly every household had a cellar for storing food and vegetables during the winter. As the police searched Hong's yard, they indeed discovered a cellar entrance hidden under a pile of weeds. Upon opening the entrance, the police were greeted by a putrid odor, The cellar seemed long abandoned, filled with plastic bags and what appeared to be human feces. Hong, witnessing the unfolding investigation, grew more and more anxious and attempted to obstruct the police from inspecting the cellar. Undeterred, the police used a rake to probe from the outside, revealing two seemingly new blue and green bed sheets. As suspected, the sheets concealed corpses, which the police carefully brought to the surface. The heavily decomposed remains were identified as missing brothers Lao Liu and Liu Boss. Su Hong was promptly apprehended, and news of her arrest circulated throughout the village, leaving many in disbelief. Initial forensic findings indicated that the brothers had died from strangulation. During interrogation, Hong admitted to committing the murders. Having borrowed money from Liu Boss and later Lao Liu, the brothers used the debt as a pretext to see her at home in her clinic. During these visits, they subjected Hong to sexual assault and coerced her into performing favors instead of settling her debt. Overwhelmed by misery, Hong sought a way out, expressing to the police that life was worsening each day. She said that Liu Boss had fallen in love with a woman outside the village and was planning to marry her. In anticipation of this change, Liu Boss decided to cease his harmful actions towards Su Hong under the condition that she settle her entire debt with interest. On April 26, 2010, the day before Liu Boss went missing, Hong invited him to her home to repay the money. Before he arrived, she crushed 16 sleeping pills into powder, which she then packed into 2 capsules. She convinced Liu Boss to take the medicine, falsely presenting it as Viagra. Liu Boss fell unconscious, and Hong seized the opportunity to use a rope to strangle him. She wrapped his body in a sheet, secured it with a rope, and 3 days later employed the same method to lure younger brother Lao Liu to her home, where she killed him in a similar fashion. Hong disposed of both bodies in the cellar. Surprisingly, the case didn't end there. The police sensed something further amiss as the cellar remained foul-smelling, prompting suspicions of something else concealed within. Their intuition proved correct when officers, clearing the cellar and searching for additional evidence, stumbled upon an entirely different corpse, completely skeletonized with no remaining flesh or skin. Little did they know that they had just stumbled upon one of China's only female serial killers. The skeletal remains belonged to a woman, and the police promptly gathered DNA samples from the bones, cross-referencing them with families of local missing persons. Results confirmed her identity as Li Shuiying, the sister-in-law of Su Hong. Following 2 days of continuous interrogation, Hong eventually confessed to her involvement in Shuiying's death. Hong then went on to explain her entire life story, which had many more dark turns. But before we piece it all together, please take a moment to subscribe, comment, and like the video. It makes a massive difference to the channel, and thank you so much for watching. Hong was born in 1970 in the city of Ning'an and grew up with a younger brother and sister, shouldering the majority of household responsibilities at her parents' behest. Pursuing a career in medicine, Hong attended Ning'an Health School in 1986, later interning at the Second People's Hospital after graduation. Her stint at the hospital was brief, resigning in 1990 to move to Shinua Village, where she established a small clinic. In 1994, she married her high school sweetheart, a decision met with disapproval and criticism from her family, as it meant sacrificing a promising career for matrimony. Following her marriage, Hong relocated to her husband's residence in a different village. However, their marital bliss was short-lived, marred by her husband's immediate infidelity with other women. Despite wanting a divorce, Hong yielded to her parents' advice, considering the societal stigma attached to divorce in the rural community. Divorce would tarnish her reputation and potentially derail her life. In the hopes of salvaging their relationship, Hong bore a child, anticipating that the arrival of their daughter would mend the strained bonds. Unfortunately, her husband displayed little interest in parenting, leaving Hong to shoulder the responsibilities alone. When Hong's daughter was just 9 months old, her husband left for work in the south of China, severing the family's main source of income. Without financial support and with her spouse on the opposite side of the country, Hong returned to Shinua village with her daughter and reopened her clinic. Life didn't ease up for Hong in her hometown, as her siblings had also migrated for work in the south. This left Hong to care for her parents, nieces, nephews, her own daughter, as well as managing the village clinic. Faced with financial difficulties, Hong resorted to doing farm work, undertaking tasks traditionally assigned to the men of the village. In 2001, Hong discovered that her husband, who had been working in southern China, had moved in with a local woman and even impregnated her. Learning of this betrayal, Hong decided to divorce her husband and fully establish herself in her village. In February 2003, Hong's sister returned to the village. She came to Hong's home seeking help to divorce her husband Bing Tao after a recent argument had escalated into physical violence. The following morning, when Bing Tao came to Hong's residence looking for his wife, a heated argument ensued, during which Bing Tao threatened harm to both his wife and children. Faced with this threat, Hong struck Bing Tao across the temple with an empty beer bottle. He began to bleed profusely and struggled on the ground before becoming completely motionless. Hong called her father and explained the situation. Her father did not blame Hong and assured her that he would handle the aftermath. Hong's father doused Bing Tao's body in gasoline, covered it with a pile of weeds, and set it ablaze. Hong then used Bing Tao's mobile phone to send a text message to his family, stating that he had left for employment in the south and would not return until he had earned enough money. This deception was so effective that even in the 7 years between the murder and Hong's confession, nobody reported Bing Tao missing. In November 2005, Hong's stepsister Shuiying returned to the village after working in Ningbo, Zhejiang province. The reunion took a sour turn when Shuiying, upon asking to borrow 10,000 yuan from Hong, became upset at Hong's refusal. Later that day, Hong learned from her mother that Shuiying was having an affair, which she felt was tarnishing the family name. This revelation, especially the act of cheating, fueled Hong's anger, and after what she went through with her husband, she simply couldn't tolerate it. Seizing an opportunity when her stepsister Shuiying was sleeping, Hong used a piece of rope to strangle her, and then disposed of her body in the cellar. To divert suspicion, Hong fabricated a letter and clandestinely placed it in Shuiying's family home. The letter claimed that she had left the village for work and asked not to be searched for. Since news of her affair was widespread, no one questioned her disappearance. To further conceal the bodies and odor, Hong used the cellar to discard garbage and human feces, and she may well have avoided detection if the Liu brothers' disappearance hadn't undergone a proper investigation. Once the story became public and gained national attention, many expressed immense sympathy for Hong, hoping for a lenient sentence, but to the public's surprise, Hong seemed to prefer the death penalty, stating to the media that she would rather die than be free with everyone knowing what she'd done. Her only lament was, "Why do men always treat me like this?" In January 2011, Hong was prosecuted and received a guilty verdict. Without attempting to mount a defense, Hong openly admitted to her crimes, showing no remorse. She actively urged the court to expedite her death sentence. Honoring Hong's request, the Mudanjiang City Court of Heilongjiang Province sentenced her to death, and on February 10, 2012, Su Hong was executed. Do you feel sympathy for her? Was Hong a cold-blooded murderer, or a victim who was pushed to her limits? Or does nothing excuse taking a life? I want to also thank and shout out the Reddit user Moondog for his research into the case. He also helped with a lot of the research for other videos I've done, which I didn't realize until starting this video. People disappearing is unfortunately not much of a rare occurrence. In 2021, over 500,000 people were reported missing in the United States, and by 2022, over 90,000 of them remained actively missing. If and when the missing person is found, usually they're accompanied by a large amount of clarity. Either they can personally explain what happened and where they've been, or they're not moving. But this is the first time I've ever seen a missing persons case that has more questions than answers when they finally returned. In April 2006, a 14-year-old girl named Yoonbi, who was without a home, came to an orphanage in Gyeongju, a city located in the southern part of South Korea. She carried a letter from her mother with her at that time. The letter read, "Yoonbi doesn't even know who her father is. Her name is Yoonbi, but she doesn't even know what her last name is. She was born when I was just 19. We tried to live together as much as we could, but it's gotten too hard now. Please take care of this poor girl from now on." When she was questioned further by the orphanage, she went on to elaborate about her situation and what her life has entailed leading up to this point. As per Yoonbi's account, she and her mother survived by living on the streets, earning a daily wage through manual labor at outdoor market stalls. Yoonbi was not officially documented by the government. She had never attended school and had limited knowledge of writing. But despite all this, when they began teaching her at the orphanage, Yoonbi appeared to be a natural genius. The girl without a home managed to complete the entire school curriculum from 1st grade to 9th grade within a year. A year later, when she turned 15, she successfully passed the General Education Development Test covering both elementary and middle school content. This officially recognized her as having completed elementary and middle school education at just 15 years of age. The following year, she left the orphanage and started residing in the dorms of a nearby high school. Just like she did with the teachings at the orphanage, she excelled. By the 11th grade, she had the 13th best grades in the entire school and was dreaming of becoming a doctor. Then 3 o'clock in the afternoon on January 5th, 2010, the soon-to-be 12th grader disappeared at the age of 18. According to her friends, she was going back to the orphanage to show them her scholarships and said she would be back for the evening. This is where things get incredibly strange. Yoonbi didn't come back. It was later discovered that she had taken all her clothes and personal things with her when she left. The police were utterly confused, and she wasn't heard for almost an entire month. Until February 3rd, 2010, one man from Suwon, a city on the other side of Korea, told authorities that Yoonbi, who was his niece, was perfectly fine and living with her mother in a perfectly normal suburban house. First thoughts go to thinking that maybe the mother got her life together, got a house, and reconnected with her mother. But the truth is so much more than that. Yoonbi didn't exist. This whole time, this girl was living a double life. In reality, Yoonbi was a girl with the surname Lee. Born in 1989 to an ordinary suburban family, Lee faced a turning point at the age of 17. She decided to leave home, embarked on a journey across the country, and reached out to the Gyeongju orphanage, adopting the guise of a beggar. Lee forged the letter from Yoonbi's mother to lend credibility to her narrative. If you're still following, this also confirms that she was 17, not 14 when she arrived at the orphanage. With this known, it's not surprising why she was seen as a genius. She had already completed elementary and middle school as well as all grades up to the 12th. As she was about to start 12th grade, Lee, once again without clear reasons, chose to leave behind her second identity as Yoonbi and reunite with her family. When asked about the specific reasons for leaving home and creating a false identity, Lee responded with a claim of not being able to remember. Her family, high school teachers, and the orphanage staff all suggested that this wasn't entirely unexpected, as Lee had previously displayed signs of amnesia. If this was a movie or something, and the plot was explained by the protagonist having amnesia, most of us would call that bad writing. But sometimes life imitates art, even if the art's bad.
Let me get this straight. Does anyone here not have amnesia?
I don't know.
Authorities suspect that Lee's departure was likely driven by excessive stress over her academic performance. She chose to run away in an attempt to start fresh and improve her grades, which she successfully achieved. However, as she was approaching 12th grade in the persona of Yoonbi, she came to the realization that her previous academic success was attributed to relearning everything. Having left at the age of 17, she had never covered 12th grade material before. The looming possibility of failure became overwhelming. leading her to return to her previous life. One of the strangest parts of this story is that Lee, the girl who created and lived as Unbi, faced no legal action whatsoever, as what she did technically wasn't against the law. She couldn't be charged with impersonation as she wasn't impersonating someone who existed. This case, although closed, has created so many questions. How did no one notice? What were the parents doing during this? Does she actually have amnesia? What is she doing now? But I don't think we're going to get any answers anytime soon. The same day, a 14-year-old boy disappeared. A person wearing his hat visited the family's house, claiming that the boy had taken something from him. The following day, a letter confessing to the theft arrived from the boy. But upon closer examination, it appeared as though he was forced to write it, or didn't write it at all. Japan, February 23, 1969. A 14-year-old boy named Jin Shoyama, who lived in Sasebo, Japan's Nagasaki prefecture, was busy working on a school project on his porch until 2 p.m. After completing his craft work, he went inside to inform his family that he was heading to the Tamaya department store to buy more supplies. When he left home for the store, he was still dressed in his school uniform and wore his cap. At around 6:30 p.m., 4 hours later, an unfamiliar man, who claimed to be 24 years old, arrived at their home. He held Jin's cap and promptly declared, "The owner of this hat stole my money." This man identified himself as a clerk from a cleaning shop. He explained to Jin's family that at 3:30 p.m., he had been on a city road and encountered a bicycle stuck in a gutter with two boys attempting to free it. In an effort to assist them, he removed his jumper and placed it by the roadside. At that moment, one of the boys abandoned the bicycle, grabbed the jumper, and made a run for it. The other boy followed suit. Inside the jumper's pocket, there happened to be 460,000 yen in cash. The man hurriedly pursued the boys, managing to snatch one of their caps from his pocket. Despite his efforts, the two boys managed to escape. However, he was able to locate Jin's family by identifying their name on the cap. After recounting his story, he attempted to seek compensation. However, since the family didn't have such a large sum of money, he eventually gave up and left. Jin's family found this situation quite surprising, as a complete stranger had approached their home without warning, accusing their son of stealing a significant amount of yen before departing. This accusation didn't align with what they knew of Jin's character. The next day, on the 24th of February, Jin still hadn't returned home. However, his father received a letter addressed to him. The letter had been postmarked between 6 p.m. and 12 a.m. on February 23rd at the Sasebo post office. A translation of the letter reads, "I'll dispense with the preliminaries. I'm sorry for worrying you. Enticed by a no-good friend, I took someone's money. There was over 400,000 yen inside, but I only received a little of it. Please tell school that I'll be off sick for a while until I get my feelings under control. I'll return home and apologize soon. Please try not to look for me. Signed, Jin." The letter raised suspicion and worry within his family. Even though the letter appeared to be written in Jin's handwriting, it seemed a bit too perfect and tidy. Its content was crafted in a way that made it seem like Jin was admitting to the accusations made by the mysterious man, placing blame on others and giving a reason for not returning home for an unspecified period. What stood out was how neatly the letter was written, which made his family suspect that he might have been forced to write it. The phrase "chianlue," or dispensing with preliminaries, was particularly noteworthy because it wasn't a phrase Jin had ever used or written before. It was oddly formal for a 14-year-old addressing his parents. Additionally, many kanji words were written in hiragana, including his own name, which seemed unusual. All these details suggest that Jin might have been frightened or pressured when composing the letter. After Jin had been missing for a full day, his family decided to contact the police. Rather than quickly dismissing Jin as a runaway or a thief based on the confession letter, the police took his family's concerns seriously. They sensed that something wasn't quite right about the situation. The police initiated their investigation by attempting to locate the person Jin was accused of stealing from. Even though this individual's identity remained undisclosed, the police managed to find him. Surprisingly, he was telling the truth. He turned out to be a 24-year-old worker at a cleaning store, although his background was more complex. He had been released on parole from a juvenile detention center just 4 months before Jin went missing, after serving a 2-year sentence. Given this individual's criminal history, the police began to scrutinize his account more closely. Among their many questions was how a cleaning store employee who had only recently been released from a juvenile center had access to such a substantial amount of yen and why he was carrying it in cash. When questioned by the police, he stated that he had hidden the money beneath the floor of his family's residence before his arrest. His family denied this claim, raising further doubts. The police tried to locate anyone who might have witnessed the incident described by the man. Due in part to the remote and isolated location he claimed it happened in, no witnesses could be found. This seemed odd because he said that 2 boys had stolen money from him, causing him to yell and give chase. This allegedly took place in broad daylight on a city street. He even guided the police to the exact spot where this event was said to have occurred, but they still couldn't find any witnesses or tracks of a bicycle. Furthermore, as February 23rd was a Sunday, all the banks were closed, raising doubts about why he would be carrying such a large sum of money in cash. It also seemed questionable how Jin and the other boy would have known about the money hidden in the man's jumper. He had stated that the money was concealed there. This led the police to strongly suspect that this man might have kidnapped Jin, possibly intending to demand ransom for a fictional amount of money. A significant search effort was launched, involving 50 investigators and various individuals such as Jin's family, teachers, classmates, and others. They scoured the city streets, alleys, inns, hotels, and even the surrounding mountains, yet no sign of Jin was found. A few days later, the man was subjected to a polygraph test and questioning. Remarkably, he remained composed enough to pass the test successfully. Despite the mounting circumstantial evidence that seemed to implicate him, many might jump to the conclusion that he was responsible, and that this was one of those unsolved cases with a seemingly clear solution. The police held the suspicion that he might have unidentified accomplices involved in the situation. The police tried to follow his movements and spoke to local residents to see if they had seen him. They discovered that before visiting Jin's home, he was stopping strangers on the street and asking them where Jin lived. This on its own might not seem unusual, as he did tell his family he had located Jin. The same people who saw this also told the police that about half an hour earlier, 3 different men were also asking around about Jin's whereabouts. Despite their efforts, the police couldn't track down or identify these 3 men or get descriptions from the witnesses. The police believed that these men might have been friends he had made during his time in jail. Unfortunately, on the same day the investigation began, the case seemed to go cold. Despite the strong signs, the police couldn't find any concrete evidence to link the cleaning store employee to the crime, and they couldn't charge him with anything. These 3 men who were likely involved remained unknown.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special message from our sponsors. Raid Shadow Legends, NordVPN, $1 Shave Club, Scentbird, Liminal Land.
You subscribing, commenting, sharing, and liking are all free and help me a lot. Please make sure to interact with this video in some way. Thank you again for watching.
Welcome back to reality.
In 1970, the man moved away from Sasebo and settled in a different area. In 1973, he was located and gave an interview to the media about the case. His responses were published in an article on November 16, 1973. At this point, he was married with 2 children, living in Nara Prefecture, and working as a dump truck driver. The interview briefly sparked new interest in the case due to something puzzling the man said, which increased suspicion. He claimed that the money was real but couldn't reveal its source, stating to the reporter,
"It wouldn't be good if I told you.
What caught attention was the way he added,
But I might have to say it someday."
Although his exact meaning remains unclear. Many inferred that the money might have come from illegal activities. Reporters also asked him about how Jin and the other boy could have known about his money. He responded, "Yeah, you couldn't see it from the outside. Now that I think about it, that's strange." Moreover, a reporter asked if he remembered Jin's height. Strangely, this question seemed to startle him, and he quickly mumbled, "About the same size as me, or maybe a bit taller." This was odd because the cleaning employee was short and stout for his age, while Jin was a 14-year-old boy who stood at 168 centimeters, or 5'5". This meant that Jin would have been visibly taller than the man, making it highly unlikely that they could be mistaken for being the same height. The statement about Jin's height seemed to convince the police that the man likely had accomplices. They suspected that these accomplices were the actual kidnappers and that the man might not have seen Jin in person, or at least not while standing. This became the only explanation for why he was so mistaken about Jin's height. The police shifted their theory from considering the man as the kidnapper to considering him more like a messenger. 3 unidentified men, for reasons unknown, seemingly decided to kidnap Jin and demand ransom from his family. To avoid being caught, they chose the cleaning store employee, who had recently been released from a juvenile detention center, as he was less likely to cooperate with the police. Failing to find Jin themselves, they handed him Jin's cap and instructed him to locate Jin and convey a message to his family. They might have paid him to do this or promised him a portion of the ransom money. This revised theory also clarified why there was no evidence linking the man to Jin's kidnapping. He wasn't directly involved in the abduction, according to this new version of events. Unfortunately, it appears that the police were unable to reopen the investigation based solely on the media interview, and it seems that no further inquiries were carried out. And that's where we are today. Hopefully sometime soon the case can be reopened, and Jin and his family can finally see justice for what has happened. These unsolved cases naturally tend to end on a bit of a cliffhanger, but sometimes that's just life. Even many high-profile events still don't have explanations. From JFK to Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, there are still so many unsolved cold cases out there, and I feel it is important to try and bring attention to them in hopes that maybe one day they'll be solved. Please, in the comments below, tell me some of your favorite YouTubers and content creators. I'm really curious to see what all of you watch aside from my content. And until next time, keep fearing the living.